Welcome everyone to the Tantric Leadership Podcast today. My name is Anja Akaya Amelung and I'm an embodiment and Qigong and Tantra teacher, and my guest today is Komala Lyra. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you.
Komala will join our European Tantra Festival in May next year, and we would love to introduce her more to you. And there's a very special story how I met Komala, and this is what I would love to start with. Like last year, after the Tantra Festival Ibiza, Komala was joining a dinner, and I met this woman coming with her energy and her beautiful appearance, and our eyes connected, and it was like boom, like we really locked, and we had this beautiful, strong connection, and I felt like, wow, who is this person? I need to know more about this person. And then a few days later, accidentally, we met in the Garden of Light at a concert in Ibiza. And then as well, we didn't talk, we just let our bodies speak and come together like in a dance of love. And that was so touching and precious to me. It felt really like I meet a lover of a past life. So I'm curious. How did it feel for you? And like, is it more of a common experience for you that you attract these kind of encounters? For me, it was so special.
I can say that there is some kind of precision in the way I recognize people. I will fade away from giving names or past life or whatever, but I feel there's a recognition of soul and heart, and I'm very quick to zoom into whoever is that I need to meet or that comes to my past that I recognize. So definitely there was a recognition of, oh, you, haven't seen you for a while. Yeah. So I said yes to your invitation. Out of that, I'm not going to festivals, so it's a long time. And sometimes I say yes to things that I don't know. Suddenly, why did I say yes? I said yes to it.
So, yes, and we're so happy to have you. And now I would love you to introduce yourself a little bit. Please, tell our listeners and viewers a bit about what brought you on that path, and
Okay, so I was born in Brazil, in Rio de Janeiro, which is a beautiful. The nature is very beautiful. Let's not talk about anything else. The nature in Brazil is my connection with Brazil. I don't have much connection with anything else. The nature is alive and it's wild and it's beautiful. And I grew up very much in nature, and with a lot of freedom in my body to move, to be naked, to go to the beach every day. I was born in front of the ocean, and also in the mountains, horse riding. So my connection with my body has always been honored by my parents in a way that I remember having a fight with my father when I was 13, that he wanted to start controlling me, and I said, it's too late. You should have done that before. Now I know what I need, I know what I want. So I feel that this deep connection with the guidance of my body has always been respected, maybe against my parents, because at the end I left very early home, but I had a lot of trust in the guidance of my body. And there was a moment when I was 18 that I decided to leave home and come to Europe. It's my origin, my family of origin is European, and since then I never went to live in Brazil again. But this sensitivity of the body and this attunement to what is my body right now telling me, I grew up with that, and I'm extremely grateful to that. So it's not something I had to rekindle, refine. Yeah, details of conditioning obviously we all had, but it wasn't anything dramatic. It was like, yes, I don't need that. I don't need that, because the core of my connection with nature was very strong. So one thing leading to the other, I lived in Europe and I ended up in India looking for,
How old
digression.
were you then?
When I went to India, I was 26,
Mhm.
27, yeah, 26, 27. In the spirit of time that I've lived in India, I lived in Europe, I almost died a couple of times very young. And that depth of connection with silence and the bigness of life and this insignificance of a little body, it was very strong. And I was very upset that they saved my life. So I had this idea I needed to go to India because I had a connection that I couldn't explain, that in India if I was going to die they would leave me die, and that there was a certain connection with death there. And for me, again, the connection of sexuality and death was always present since very young. I always felt that the portal of my sexuality was to the biggerness of life and not with the person that was just with me. But I didn't have any names for that. I didn't have any meditation, even though I used to love since I was a kid to sit under trees and not talk to anybody for hours. And I kind of felt a bit afraid, what is this? Nobody that I know does that. So I ended up in India, I ended up in the Osho community by chance. And there I found out, oh, here it is, everything that I thought existed is here. People that are alive, people that have a clarity of connection with their sexuality, different levels of therapies and different levels of openness and meditation through a lot of movement, through a lot of dance. By then I was a dancer, and my body continued to be the guidance. When I came into the community, I was giving the recognition of being a tantric. I had no idea what that was. I was told, you will know where you come from. And so I was kind of got the job, the meditation, the practice to really go into the classical tantric texts and start giving workshops in the time, not really mentally knowing what I was doing, but energetically remembering all the practices that probably I've done in other lives. And
so it was really practical workshops, not only theoretical.
No. These were really meditations for 2 years. I was every single day for a few hours.
The Osho meditations.
Yeah.
Yes.
With the classical Vigyambharava Tantra, and also with meditations from the Kashmiri Tantra. So I was giving that practice as my guideline for life. So since then I have been. Then when I just got to India, I almost died again another time. And since then I've been very healthy. So I think I needed to come close to remember what this abyss was and what was the opening that happens when you're just almost, the body has hardly any life force, and then you decide to come back.
What brought you back is my question.
I guess there is a knowing that's bigger than my personal knowing, that knew that there was more to take out of this body, because I have a very good genes. I come from very good genes. In my family, people died 100 years old.
Same here.
So there was like a waste of time, a waste of energy to let go of this body.
Okay.
I felt somehow there was an alignment to come to a good genetic ground, to be able to pass through a lot of adventures, a lot of challenges, and grow and learn from it. And at the end, to be able to share with other people that is, that's where we come from, that's where we're going, that there is something bigger than our little ideas of who we are. So that's the story of. And since then I've been giving groups, workshops, trainings, all kinds of, I was given all kinds of trainings, all kinds of therapies to move through.
And you're doing this since over 30 years now, right?
Yeah, 40.
40 years, yeah.
So since my 20s.
So not many people with this huge experience. So that's really a gift to be in your workshops and to have you at the festival with us. I feel really blessed, and I'm really, really grateful that you said yes. And we are looking very much forward to create magic there. In our conversation, you just mentioned the connection between death and sexuality.
Mm-hmm.
Most people do not connect this, and for me it's like, oh, what is it? Like, what is the connection for you here?
Okay. So the first time I had a sexual interaction with my boyfriend when I was 15, who I love very much, who loved me very much, there was, of course, was something that I had to do a bit hidden, and the environment, even though it was an open environment in some ways, was not an environment that opened to understanding of energetics. It was just really feeling the instinct of our own aliveness and our own love, and the attraction that we had for each other. But I knew somehow inside that there was something more than just this pleasure. Of course, I didn't know what it was, and none of my friends knew what it was. We were, my destiny was probably going to be to get married, have babies, have a beautiful life, and be an artist and a dancer. But there was something inside that was calling, no, there's more. What is this more? I don't know what this more is. Until I got to find out what this more is. And it was a connection, still before I went to India, was a man I married. There was total surrender. And in the total surrender, as much as I was deeply in love with this man, it was like there was nobody there. It was like I was dying to everything I knew inside me, everything I knew to be what I wanted, what I didn't want. It was a death of identity.
For the relationship?
No, a death of identity in the sexuality. We had a very strong sexual connection. So every time I made love, it was this opening that there is a biggerness that is much bigger than me, bigger than us, bigger than this love. And again, I didn't know what it was. And it was very difficult to accept that, because I had everything. I had a huge love affair with the man I married, who adored me. I had a beautiful work. I love my work. I was an artist. I was a dancer. We had an amazing house. I had money. I could do whatever I want. And why is it that something is missing?
Yes,
and everybody was asking me, but you have everything. What are you missing? And I, strangely enough, missed that sharing of this depth of love as death. It's difficult for people to understand, but sexuality pointed me to that. Every time I made love, I experienced something huge, bursting connection with the universe. And for most people, sexual connection was just pleasure, or a way to be nourished, or a way to have babies. And I had an experience that was very transcendental. I don't like this word so much, but there was beyond in terms of how people lived. So that's how one thing led to the other. I ended up in India. When I almost died again, I thought, oh, these two things are the same. This going to this edge of openness. I almost die, and when I make love, I feel the same. And how is that possible? In India and through the Tantric meditations, I understood that the potential of sexuality to the deepest core is to really open up to this memory of where we come from, to the memory that we come from infinity and we're going back there. And the partners are basically portals. And that when we start to create that, to live that consciously, there is a deepening into our connection with ourselves, a deepening of the connection with the love, but it has a different quality. It's not a quality that we hold on to. It's a quality that we hold hands with and relax and open with.
Yeah.
And it's not possible to describe or put
No.
into a label.
I understand.
But it is the deepest core for me of what sexuality opens. And the Tantric meditations are all about reversing the direction of the senses. Instead of going out to see something, you're just being seen by everything that's around you. Instead of going tasting something to get the taste, you let the taste penetrate your mouth and dissolve inside. Instead of touching by wanting to take something or feel something, you are receiving that quality. The same thing with the smell, the same thing with what you listen to. So it is this dissolving back into source. Every single meditation leads to that.
Yeah.
Every single. So nowadays there is a big distortion of my experience, and bring in the connection between sexuality and Tantra. Actually,
Yeah.
Tantra has nothing to do with sexuality.
No. And this is
Nothing.
this big misunderstanding in the West, mainly.
Yeah. Now it's like an indulgence into sexuality without the practices that bring sexuality to another level.
Yeah.
So Tantra is not about just fucking around
No,
or having
no.
sex, no matter what. It is really about practicing beforehand a capacity, expanding your capacity to open up. And the greatest temptation or the greatest possible attachment or link is when you come close to someone that you merge in such a deep way, letting that trespass you rather than holding on to it. And this doesn't mean that you have one partner every day. On the opposite, it means that you can have the same partner every single day, which I did have for 14 years, and every day that experience is growing in you and deepening and returning to honoring that portal for where you go together. So it's not is another capacity. So without developing that capacity, a connection will always be at the level of fast pleasure or infatuation or romantic love, which is all beautiful and all have their own space and time in the growing and in the developing, but it doesn't give you, it's not the essence of Tantra, just to say.
Yes. What is the essence of Tantra for you?
For me, it's to continuously flow in this deep listening to where the bigness of life takes you. And Kashmirian Tantra is very, the emphasis is in that openness, that you never know where you are, and you are where you are all the time. So this doesn't make much sense to the mind, but to the energy body it does. It's letting go of any kind of control, letting go any kind of sense of direction, and being present with the waves that move through us. But if we're not permeable, if we haven't practiced our capacity to expand and to allow life force to move, then we're going to control, we're going to want to hold on. So all the practices, the Kashmirian Tantra have strong body practices that are really initiations in this capacity to completely let life move you. And then from the little capacity in the body, it becomes a bigger capacity in life. That, yeah, it's strange to live like this, but it's how I live. So ends up being magic in some ways, ends up being challenging in some ways. But there is always a sense of, here I am. And there is a sense of deep rest that even in intense situations, of challenge situations, is there. So it's like one of the programs that I do is called Fierce Love. For me, is that what Tantra brings is this capacity to love in a fierce way. No matter what happens, you don't bail out. And it doesn't mean that you're suffering, doesn't mean you are being abused, nothing of this. It means that your presence is radiating at each moment, and that you know where you go back for, or where you go back to, alone and together with whoever is that is in that journey with you. And also, Tantra doesn't need to be with a partner. Tantra is a practice, an individual practice before anything. And then eventually, in a deeper layer, when there's two people that do have that capacity of being expanded and permeable, and there is an alignment, and there is okay, let's go into that together and hold our capacities together.
So for people who have not much experience in Tantra, what will you recommend, or is there like just a few exercises you can give them that they can start practicing to expand their capacities?
That's a good one.
Yeah.
So the Vijnana Tantra, which is a classical Tantra text, is a dialogue between consciousness and form, between Shiva, who represents consciousness, and Shakti, who represents form. It can be also extrapolated to the feminine and masculine. The first is Shakti. The form asks the consciousness, the non-form, how do I remember the non-form? How do I remember infinity? How do I remember the cosmic play of the universe? And Shiva says, the first meditation. For me, this is what stays with me as my guidance for life since, 40 years. The first meditation is when you breathe in, you breathe deep, deep, deep inside. There is a moment where you can't breathe anymore and it stops. And it's this moment of gap. And in this gap, if you bring your awareness to that gap, there is nothing. There is space. There is expansion. And then when you breathe again, when you release your breath, you go. There's again another gap. There's a moment where nothing happens. You're breathing in or breathing out. You don't know if you're ever going to breathe in again. So in that gap, pay attention. Realize this openness that doesn't have an ending. So for me, the breath is really the anchor to the bigness of awareness and the capacity to keep staying present. And some moments, I have a lot of airport life, so a lot of this is helpful for me in airports where, okay, it's all crazy. I sit and I just go paying attention to my breath. Where does it end in that moment of emptiness? Bringing my awareness and my fullness to that emptiness, and then breathing again and realizing that there's another gap, bringing my awareness, my fullness to that gap. And that has changed my life. And if we extrapolate to how we live in a practical level, most people are afraid of changes. And most people want to guarantee that you know what you're going to do after something is finishing or completing or is going to change. And for me, it's the same. There's moments of gaps that I don't know.
Yeah. And
in those moments, just like stop. And instead of trying to get the next thing, just like, So in that emptiness, what comes next gets revealed. Not from the mind, not from the desire, not from the fear, not from, oh my God, but I'm going to do, or fitting in some kind of program of family or social or cultural, but just opening to not knowing and expanding in that not knowing and waiting till the next layer comes. So for me, that's the best integration I ever found.
what happens when in the waiting, the fears and the thoughts are coming up? Then there's not the spaciousness, then it's filled by this.
That
So
is
again, then you
another
breathe through
question.
it.
If you manage to breathe through it, for me, that's the thing, that you don't need anybody, anything, and you don't need to change the place where you are. It's almost like you're, in the turbulence in the airplane. Suddenly the airplane starts to do like this, you just go like this. So that's one. So if you can't do that, you can go with the turbulence, which is to let your body shake. That's the second best advice or suggestion I have. When the turbulence is really kicking and you cannot just breathe and relax, stand up, find a place, start to shake, start to let the body move and release whatever is the tension. And this is the practice of every day. There is even meditations that include shaking. The Osho Kundalini meditation is a shaking and a dance, and then you can relax and you can be quiet. But shaking is fantastic. It's again very simple. You don't need great apparatus. You cannot be anywhere special. You don't need to be anywhere special. That's another practice I do in airports. Very often.
So if you see someone just shaking, then
it's me.
And I really love that too. If you need some music for it, just Google or look at Spotify Kundalini meditation from Osho, and then let the music shake you. And in the beginning, you can just fake it until you make it, and you will feel to some point it will shake you, and your body will start moving by itself. And for me, this is the best practice to get myself out when I have a trauma response, when I have a strong activation in my nervous system, and to get out, to move the energy.
I agree.
So I love the shaking. This is my lifesaver.
It's simple. The mind doesn't like simple things, but the reality is that the shifts. I don't use the word transformation because I don't think anything is transformed. I feel that we cover up, the naturalness of our beings with ideas and conditioning and trying to fit in different masks and different things. And all we can do is to take it away. And that's not transforming, that is unveiling and unburdening and peeling. So shaking and the breath really helps that immensely. And it's a very, 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 very simple, because it moves the emotional body, the mental body. You cannot think when you're shaking. You can try, but you can't. No. So, and emotions move, and your body moves and releases tension as well. So simple.
Thank you very much. That was very helpful. And I'm curious now. What are your dreams in life now? What excites your heart?
So at this moment, I am creating a beautiful community living in the south of Portugal, where we own the land with a few other friends. And it will be a place for very intimate gatherings. It is already a place for very intimate gatherings. It's not a venue or anything. It is a living being, living.
It feels like a being.
Yeah,
like
it's a being.
It's like you create a being, which is a space. Because like for me, islands are beings. For example, places are beings. They have energy. I can connect with them. I can communicate, and I feel when they suffer. And I feel when they're joyful. And I feel when we create community, it's like we create a consciousness, a collective consciousness, which moves with us.
Exactly.
It feels a bit similar what you share about what you're creating there.
We're still growing. We are open for a few events and programs, very intimate, with maximum 20 people, and it's not all the time. And it's a land that is very earthy. I never really lived in a place source. Usually I live in islands, close to the ocean or in the mountains. This is beautiful Four Seasons land that is very simple and very it teaches me to pay attention to the small things. So there I feel very creative also. I just finished editing, I'm publishing 2 books I wrote 14 years ago.
Wow.
Yeah, so they're coming now. and they are
That
mixing.
really relieves me, because I have books I'm writing on since over 5 years, and I always judge myself that I'm not there yet. But really, thank you. That sometimes it really, yeah, one is coming out very soon, and there's 3 others which already I started writing them, and there's 2 are 70% finished, and the third one
I will give you support for that.
Yeah, so I'm very happy to hear that it really, for you as well, takes time. And
Well,
this,
it is again the listening to life,
when is the right? Is it more about when is the right timing to publish it, or more the phases of channeling the?
Well, the channel happened 12 years ago. I finished 12 years ago, and then I had to edit 100 pages, and this I've edited the whole thing, and 100 pages are missing. I had contracts that I couldn't fulfill, which is a rare thing to have contracts for book, and to get in trouble for that. And now suddenly I was in Tahiti for a month, and then I finished editing everything, and I don't know, and I feel it's the right timing. Part of my tantric experience is my whole tantric experience is merged with Ayurveda and yoga. I started doing yoga when I was 12 years old. My mom was into yoga. And then living in India many years, I'm an Ayurvedic consultant in a big way. So Ayurveda, yoga and Tantra for me are a threesome that cannot be pulled apart. You cannot have Tantra without Ayurveda and without yoga. So that's a big life alignment. So this book is about intimacy. There are 2 books: intimacy with yourself and relationships, and intimacy and sexuality. So the first volume is about relationships with yourself first, because you don't have connecting with your body, with you, with your consciousness. You cannot connect with someone else and with others. And the second volume is on sexuality. So this is going to be out soon. And I'm writing another book.
Exciting!
Which is almost finished.
What is
and
this
then
about?
It's going to come out is a novel.
Okay.
And
so
it's
different.
a novel,
cool.
Epic. I will not tell you more.
Good.
It's going to be a 600 pages book.
Wow!
But this land,
crazy.
This land gives me this inspiration and the grounding to let things move
to let it
through.
land as well.
Yeah. So
because I feel this is important. I get so many impulses, but I need places where they can land, and where I can really create space to go inward to let them land in creation.
That's exactly what this land does. It's such a quiet, beautiful, simple land that just pulls the presence to a form and delivers it.
Wow.
So when I'm there, which I'm trying to be a lot there, there is energy for creating those things. So these are the things that are on my plate right now. And next year we will have some events in the land that are special. Fierce Love, which is this series of programs I have, and also a program for people that want to be in communities, because I realized that most people want things, but they don't have the grounding or the capacity to relate in a way that can be harmony, that there is so many factors involved in creating community. And I lived 15 years of my life in community, so and now again. So I feel that is one of the most beautiful manifestations of a lifetime practice.
Yes.
Of Tantra is harmony, finding harmony in the way things move and harmony inside you. So we don't know how to create that with others, so it's kind of a miss. So it'll be a program a lot online, but also in the land afterwards.
Beautiful.
For communities, and I'm dephasing from my Easter leadership.
Yes, well, for me, I lived in community as well. Maybe not as strongly as you in the Osho ashram, but it was very magical to connect and to commit to a group of people, and to experience this common growth with each other, and this creating space for experiences. And in every way you can imagine. And for me, that was the most touching and beautiful time to bring Tantra even more into practice with others, in relation with others, be it friendship, be it sexual, and to practice intimacy and in relation and communication and being present with whatever comes up, not running away, and being with that witness with this, and then like the healing is so much faster.
Exactly. And also the capacity to create, the inspiration. It's just like fluid and things happen.
Yes.
Wow, how did this happen? Yeah, because 1 and 1 is 3 or 4 or 5.
Yes.
3 and 2 is 20.
This was my experience.
Mathematically is very different. Yeah.
I was like, we committed, like in one house, we committed like 4 or 5 months to a specific project. And it was like you said, out of the sudden, 5-6 people became 20, 30, and things were just popping in. And it was like, whew, like we got a force. That was fascinating. So and as well, I have heard about several communities who have these issues because people didn't really learn to relate, to communicate, and remove all the layers and patterns and collective trauma. So they're just, I feel rare. It's rare to have bigger communities who stay over time, like Tamara, for example. 30 years is like a quite long time, and then even with open relating, it's like this is wow, how is it possible? It's really fascinating for me. So I think it's a gem to teach this, to build foundation.
For me, what I feel that is the next level of many people that kind of went through some kind of cleansing, some kind of more in-depth looking, and then when you come back to a normal, so-called normal life where there is no resonance and no support really for a different lifestyle, becomes much more grinding, difficult,
very
challenging.
Yes.
And I understand that. I never lived a normal life, but I work with people that live normal lives, and sometimes it makes me cry.
Yes.
Because I feel there is so much longing in a person's heart, in many people's hearts, they don't find where to bring the reality on the ground. And then we cut short and we say, I don't care, but still we're hurting from we do care, and we do want to find a way to bring that, even if it's in a small scale. It can be even with one partner already. So this I'm looking forward to offer, because I feel there's so many people wanting to go to the next level of, and it's not at the level of the hippie community that everything is loose and
very flowy.
It's a level where really the elements are all integrated, where there's grounding, where we have to deal with things cost, how we're going to create electricity, how we're going to create the water flow in the system, and how we're going to do relating, how we're going to do the creation of the spaces, what are we going to offer, how we're going to invite other people to be part of it. There is all kinds of layers that need to be addressed, and also how we're going to take care of the land, because what I see is amazing. We created a swimming pond, a small lake in our land, which was nothing. There was nothing there. In a year, there is full of water. There's a big lake. It's 4 meters down. There is ducks appear out of the blue. There is snake living in the lake. There is frogs. Now there is some kind of crabs, and there's lots of plants that grow in a year. And it's like once you start to take care and give a little water,
the land responds,
and that is really beautiful. Because the land we are is not like this super green land, because there is oak trees, but it's not super green the whole year, and the summer is very dry because it was a bit misused in the past. But a little bit you give the fruit trees that were there, that were dying. 2 years we are watering. Wow, we have orange, we have persimmons, we have tons of figs.
Wow.
Little. So
beautiful.
That is joyful to me to feel that there is a nourishment that grows and returns. as you give. And how other people that never really had that experience, it starts to become more tuned by paying attention to what this land wants now.
And it's just another big thing what we have unlearned, I would say, in Western societies, to connect to the land, to feel nature. Like, what is nature telling me? Like, what is the sound of nature? What you said? What does the land need from me? It's like we're going there, we take. I'm taking, and not giving back. And it's still, this is why I left Kopangan, because people come and destroy this paradise island, destroying the whole nature, building 20, maybe 40,000 villas. They're escaping their war countries, but they don't listen to the nature. They don't. Their hearts are not feeling the island. And I had to leave 1.5 years, almost 2 years ago. My heart, I was physically ill. I could feel the pain of the nature of the island. I couldn't stay. It was crazy. And I think it's important to become more and more tuned again with nature, that the planet can survive.
That's an interesting thing, because we go to the beginning of what we were talking about, the listening to the body. The nature is our bigger bodies. And if we're not listening to our own bodies, we cannot listen to what the nature really needs. And we're killing the resources that are the nourishment for our own bodies. So it's pretty stupid. And it's interesting that not so many people pay attention to.
No, because they don't feel it in their bodies.
Exactly.
And this is the main thing, and this is why I do my work. I need to bring people from mind to heart to body, that they can feel what they're doing. Like that they, on the one hand, like feel the other person. What does my actions, my words do to this person? And what is nature feeling when I just take all the time?
Exactly.
Driving my big cars, whatever it is.
Parallel to that, the fear of sexuality and the control of sexuality and and all the cautiousness around it is parallel to the fear of nature. I've been a while ago with someone that grew up in New York. It was a person 30, almost 40 years old, never been bare feet.
Wow.
And it's like, whoa, how is that possible? I grew up in New York. Nowhere, never been. Oh, no, that's not good, oh, the sensation of my feet on the ground. I couldn't believe that is true, but probably this person for sure is not the only person.
No.
There's hundreds of people, thousands of people, maybe millions, but
it is.
Never nowadays went bare feet.
And as well, like when people living in skyscrapers, they are so far away from Earth vibration, they cannot connect. It's not possible.
It's a very different quality of perception also.
Yes.
And a lot of fear of insects, of, spiders. Yeah, well, they don't do anything.
I have another question. What is your view on collective trauma and how it influences?
You're opening a Pandora box here. I will talk about Ayurveda to respond to this question, because I feel from the psychological point of view, we go into spins. And Ayurveda, in my perception, in my experience of having had a clinic and work with people for quite a long time, is break through that, because it doesn't look into what is wrong. It looks into what do you nourish, how do I nourish what this system, either a physical system or an energetic system or an emotional system or a mental system or a collective people need to be alive, juicy and permeable to life force. So the way that most things are being looked at now in the I had a big training on trauma 10 years ago, before anybody's talking about trauma. Always, I'm not going to mention names, but with people that nowadays are famous. So it's easy to understand, obviously, if your system has had an indigestion because there's more energy that you could circulate, obviously you don't have the capacity to receive more life force. So instead of looking at the dynamics at a psychological and even nervous system level, Ayurveda looks at the whole system. How can we increase the capacity of this system to absorb more energy, more life force, and respond from a place of fullness rather than a place of shock or lack? So I feel that the same thing applies to a collective. It's a very, very, let's say, tricky subject that we can hear speak for thousands of hours speaking. But obviously, any kind of conflict started somewhere. But going back to where it started is not going to solve the issue ever, because one reaction causes another reaction, and then you're in a snowball, which is what we see a lot around the planet, what we see in couples, what we see in different kinds of relationships, even working relationships. Where is the chicken, where is the egg? We don't know anymore. So the only point is to fucking stop. And what does the situation needs? What kind of nourishing the situation needs to resurface and to reset from a completely different grounding, to reset its grounding. So that's how I look at physical body energy, collective energy, which is much bigger to think about it. But obviously the collective cannot be solved if we don't address the personal, because who makes the collective? It's like someone says, oh, the Italians. Well, what are the Italians? Are the little people there, Italy or Swiss or, countries don't exist.
Yes.
The identity of the little people that are there that maintain that story of identity is what maintains whatever the story is. If the whole group of people that belong to a certain clan stop maintaining that identity is going to dissolve, that trauma response is going to dissolve. So for me, the work starts in dissolving personal identity, dissolving all the labels that we put in ourselves. I am this, I'm that, I'm that, I'm that. I have a very strange, at a certain point, strange situation, because I don't really have much identification of nothing. I lived in more than 20 countries. Not that I passed by, I lived in different cultures. I come from a family that is, my grandfathers are from 4 different countries. And I grew up in another country which I have zero connection with the culture, except for nature. So for me, I have a deep respect and a deep understanding of the places where I lived.
Yeah.
Because I'm not from there. And, the identification that people have, I was born there, and this and this and this. I just found out a few months ago how my grandparents came to Brazil. My grandparents. And I don't know nothing before them. Like, I didn't even know how they had arrived there. So I just found out ChatGPT, which doesn't give information in some different ways. It found the boat that my grandparents came. Yeah, and the date and the name and everything.
That's crazy.
Yeah. And I was never sure because there was no documents, and so I don't have that, I know my grandparents, both of them. I don't know nothing behind them. I know they come from this and this and this in 4 different countries. So when you look at these reinforcements of identity that are constantly there by nationality, by culture, by language, by profession, by whatever, of course it continues to create rigidity, and rigidity is creating the reinforcement of the stories that we can call trauma. How are we going to dissolve that? There's no way, but going back to how do I dissolve my identity?
Yeah.
When I left Brazil, I was a teenager. I've seen a government of dictatorship kill teenagers my age that were protesting on the streets. And I never forgot that, to see horses stepping over people and being, seeing people being shot in front of me. Because coincidentally, the apartment where I live was on the road that led to the government palace. I never forgot that.
No.
And I felt like politics will never solve anything. If people have the courage to do the courage, whatever, the daring to do such actions of violence, I have to change myself. And I am grateful that such a horrible situation forced me or sparked me to try to find something else also at the level of non-identification, because I saw you identify with this, you identify with this, and two people fighting. And I realized that this is not going to lead anyone anywhere. So
thank you very much for sharing that view.
It's not a view that brings any solution, because you have to take full responsibility for yourself to start with.
But this is the main resolution for me.
It's the only one. But is it possible that a country of 10 million people suddenly says, every single person is taking responsibility for their own lives, and to live in a certain way, unhappily, sadly? So far, it's not looking like it's going to happen. I wish.
Me too, I wish.
But I also feel that the work we do is a little pebble of sand.
Yes.
In the potential of, maybe in 1,000 years things will change.
No. We have to change it earlier. That's not an option.
I am very, nowadays I'm like, oh my God, I spent my whole life since I'm 15, 16, 17, going into a different direction, inviting this different direction for everybody that I work, my partners, my lovers, my people I work with, my lives with ashrams and communities and ISTA and everything that I've done. And like nothing much has changed, but maybe it is changing. I can't see, I hope.
I feel it starts changing. So there are interesting things happening in Germany, and this is where I can see the change. Yes.
Hopefully. I am happy to hear that.
We need to continue that work and spread it more. And I have one last question. If you could create your dream Tantra festival, how would that look like? If you could just play and dream, everything is possible.
I would create it.
Magic stick.
Okay. Good question. So I would create a place in the total nature where there is no homes, no buildings, maybe very primitive buildings made out of bamboo or something like that.
Like in the old years of Thailand.
More the Bali style bamboo.
Okay.
Beautiful bamboo structures or mud structures.
Okay. Yes.
Something very
so the feminine
elegant,
beauty is there,
but very simple. Where there is beauty, but beauty that's totally natural beauty. Where people have space, where clothes are optional, where there is water, a water body, either the ocean or a beautiful lake or a waterfall, and where there is a distance from civilization as we know it, with cars and noise and telephones. I would forbid, that would be the only rule, any kind of electronics for 2 weeks.
No EMF.
Yeah, 2 weeks. No electronics. I would do it 2 weeks at least, possibly a month.
Wow, that's even more exciting. So we create a little Burning Man community.
Yeah, not with too many people.
No.
I don't know how many people, but not more than 160.
Okay, that's quite an intimate number.
165.
Okay, noted. 165.
What else? A lot of instruments, a lot of music, a lot of food. There's also that comes from the land. Food that is simple, lots of spices, a lot of spices, lots of very good essential oils.
Oh yes.
Good smells. space for touching with comfort and grace, space for dance, and space really only dedicated for practices of the real classical tantra, where there is almost like a continuing of meditations. That's a beautiful idea. Almost like a 24 hours of a continuum. There's always someone in that space that always people can come.
Yes.
And it's like the wheel in the Tibetan saying that to turn the wheel, that this wheel is always turning. And you can come any time of the day, and there will be, that practice available. Like, oh, that's a good idea. So I would offer like continuum experiences or explorations. I like to say, the experience or exploration, but explorations of, okay, in this space there's music 24 hours a day. In this space there is food 24 hours a day. In this space there is touching 24 hours a day. In this space there is dance 24 hours a day. Let's do it.
Let's do it.
That's
deal.
That sparks me.
See?
Yeah.
I feel the spark. And I love
it. For that. A month.
Me too, a month. That's a deal.
Yeah. And it is my application.
Of course.
Is people that really decided that they are there to create that space of a month to totally reconnect in a deeper levels.
Yes.
And there will be no kind of facilitation, but explorations of spaces that offer, Temazcal once a day, for example, like, and the elements, fire element, the Temazcal, the lake, the ocean, the water, the waterfall, and all the aliveness of the elements, the wind, where we're naked, where we can be outside, and a space that has a lot of spaciousness.
Yes, and for me as well, it needs to be people who are willing to a specific degree to really surrender, to feel humble, to devote, and to really surrender what you shared at the beginning into life. Like, because when we really, like, I had 2 near-death experiences this year, and in this moment when you feel you're dying and you let go of everything, you surrender into death. This is what I did. It's very special.
It's very special.
And I kind of moved from like this dimension through like a little skin into a different dimension, and I could feel in this total surrender, away from any pain, peace and love. And it was such a deep experience. I never felt so much peace in myself, around me, and so much love that I didn't want to leave. I wanted to stay.
Yeah, and
for some reason, life boom brought me back, and all these pains, and oh fuck. But yeah, I'm obviously here for a reason. There's some more work to do, some more gifts to share. And I would love to do this beautiful creation of like a
225 or 226?
Yes.
226. 226.
There's enough time to plan. Let's do 226.
Okay. Spring of 226. Let's see where.
Yes.
Cool.
We'll find the land.
Just had a
So thank you everyone for listening to this beautiful podcast, and thank you for all your sharings, for being here with me today.
Thank you.
For co-creating, for being inspired, for sharing like your amazing presence, wisdom and gifts and teachings with the world. Thank you so much.